Whitaker Weekly is a 3-episode anime discussion podcast where two brothers discuss a show of their choice. The show can be anything from a current season flop to a decades-old classic. What are they going to talk about next? Who knows? They sure don't. Welcome to Whitaker Weekly. My name is Andrew.
My name is Lee.
And let's get right into it. So, we've kind of been discussing the news portion. That's not really something that we want to continue doing. We wanted to, or at least I kind of had that thought. I still want to talk about things that kind of excite me and whatnot.
Sure.
But, like, reporting on news, like, it feels more like, it honestly felt like more drudgery to me trying to find things that interested me, either as opposed to just talking about things that just come up that excite me.
Mm-hmm.
So,
sure, yeah, we don't have to. We'll take a look at the news and and if something is interesting, we'll bring it up. But we may not bring you the news every week.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes just exciting things that aren't necessarily headline worthy come up.
Mm-hmm.
And this week is full of those things.
Well, they're headline worthy for us, which is why we're talking about them.
They sure are.
First and foremost, LEGO has revealed their official Voltron set. It's $180, and it's over 2,200 pieces. It might be 2,300 pieces plus. I don't remember, but it's actually based off of the original Voltron from the 80s.
Wow. And
yes, you construct 5 individual lions, and then you put them together to make the original Voltron.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to get it. I really want to get it. I'm a big LEGO fan. I've got the Tower of Orthanc. I've got some Star Wars things. I love nice big LEGO sets. They're a lot of fun to put together.
You even have the Beatles Yellow Submarine.
I have the Yellow Submarine. Yes, I do.
So you've got quite the collection.
Not as big as I would like it to be, because LEGOs are expensive and I am poor. Anyways.
So, if you guys start helping sponsor our podcast, we can afford even more Legos. And then, with these videos, we might even have a nice studio with a whole shelf of them behind us.
Oh, yeah. Make a studio. We'll just fill it with Legos because, we're a Lego podcast and not an anime podcast. Anyways.
We're a geek podcast.
Yeah.
We talk about anime and games and things that interest us.
Yeah, that's true. We do,
but anime does interest us.
Yeah, we focus on the anime though. Though we may branch out and talk about 3 episodes of other things as well.
Sure.
Especially since there's a show coming out in August that I really, really want to watch.
Oh, yeah?
I'm a big fan of Futurama. Simpsons, not so much. But Futurama was my jam. I love that show. And creator Matt Groening, I'm probably getting his name wrong. He has just revealed his new series that he's doing with Netflix.
And what's
called
this?
Disenchantment. And the trailer starts out saying, he took you to the future in Futurama. He showed you the present in Springville. Now, and he goes on to saying how the last possible conclusion, or the next logical step is the past. And it goes into the teaser. We'll put the link on our Patreon and on our YouTube and stuff, so you guys can go ahead and see it. We should probably even just tweet it out. But yeah, it's Simpsons/Futurama style comedy set in a medieval fantasy world, and I could not be more excited to give that a try. And it launches, I believe, August 17th on Netflix.
Fantastic.
Yep, I'm very excited.
Disenchantment. This is a fantasy site. This is a medieval fantasy type.
I may have spoken
fantasy?
to. Not quite sure. They went into a castle in the preview.
Okay.
So yeah, it's in the past,
right?
Medieval era. So
right. I just given his penchant for a play on words. I'm pretty sure Disenchantment refers to literally a wizard who doesn't want to be a wizard anymore, or something along those lines.
Possibly, not quite sure. Whatever. I'm excited to give it a try. And with Netflix, we don't have to wait for episodes. They're just going to release the entire thing.
Oh, fantastic!
So we should watch those first 3 episodes and maybe give a review on that. But anyways, so yeah, and then you had some stuff that you were excited about, and I'm excited about it too. So
yes. So I've been following something Witty Entertainment on Twitter for a while now, and they just released the teasers.
Real fast, for those who don't know something with Witty Entertainment, they're the ones who make Sword Art Online abridged.
Yes, they are.
So,
which is an absolutely fantastic abridgment. Heavy in the language and other content.
It's not for younger children, but it's still hysterical.
It's just fantastic, and so they've been working on Sword Art Online abridged for quite a while now, and they've just released a trailer for their next episode, which will be episode 13, and it's absolutely hilarious. So in the trailer, Kirito comes into Tiffany's bar. If you've seen the show, you know who we're talking about. In the abridged version, the big black guy goes by the name Tiffany, and it's just hilarious. And it's voiced by the incomparable Octopimp. And he comes in the bar ranting and raving, and just doesn't stop with the tonality of his voice as he begins to say, "I'm just venting. I really appreciate that you're the kind of guy who can handle this. Yeah. I appreciate our friendship." But he doesn't change the tone of his voice. He's yelling the whole time.
Watch the trailer. Okay, we'll go ahead and link it as well.
But they're also doing an abridged version of My Hero Academia, and we've mentioned it on the show before that was in the works. They finally released a teaser for the first episode,
and they released both these teasers to their patrons a while ago. But they made some incredible milestone while raising money for charity, and so they decided to go ahead as a reward release those two to the public on YouTube.
Yep.
So
we're going to link you to those pages on our page, on our Patreon, and on Twitter. We'll just share that out to our listeners.
Yeah, so that's kind of it for what we wanted to chat about real fast. But let's go ahead and jump into 3 episodes in now.
All right, let's do this.
Okay, and this week we are talking about Star Blazers Space Battleship Yamato 2199. That is a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. It's not the biggest mouthful we've had for titles, but it's still there.
Okay, so this is the synopsis taken from Crunchyroll.
Yes.
Excuse me. So the power-hungry Gamilas have taken over Earth, and only a distant planet has the key to save humans from extinction. Granted the schematics of a high-powered engine, the space battleship Yamato is built to traverse the galaxy and retrieve hope for their survival. Battling extraterrestrial forces along the way, the crew of the Yamato will stop at nothing to save their home.
Now, this is much like Megaloboxing. This is an anime that is a recreation of a throwback.
Megaloboxing is I would still say is different. I mean, it's a retelling of Ashita no Joe, Tomorrow's Joe.
Yeah.
But it's a retelling, as you know, Lion King is a retelling of Hamlet, where it's got the same story punches, but it's still telling a different story.
Right, but if you're into that retro flavor.
Yeah, well, yes, okay, I will definitely agree with you on that. If you're into that retro flavor, it doesn't do it as well. Like this is more a throwback to 70s, 80s anime with more modern day animation techniques.
Right.
Where Megaloboxing, it's modern day anime, but they have done it in a way to where it's a throwback to the 90s anime. So different eras.
Okay.
So Megaloboxing has the look and the feel of an old school anime, of a 90s era anime, whereas this one I don't quite agree. I mean, I think they've done a good job of making it more for a modern audience.
No, it's true.
So,
it's true.
Okay. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started. I hope I didn't step on your toes there.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
All right. So the first episode starts off with a space battle between the Earth forces and the Gamilas. And so when we're introduced to the future captain of the Yamato, the old guy with the white beard. What was his name?
We're introduced to him. I want to say Okita, Admiral Okita. Let me go ahead and just double check that real fast. Yeah, that's Okita. All right.
Okay.
So he is in charge of this fleet, and the fleet gets attacked by the Earth fleet gets attacked by the Gamilas, and the Gamilas just rip the Earth fleet to shreds. Like single shots are tearing through their ships, whereas the Earth fleet's firing back, and then most of their shots are just bouncing off of the enemy fleet's hulls. So they're
So it's portrayed as a real hopeless battle because
they do a really good job of showing just how hopeless Earth's forces are against this enemy fleet.
Yeah.
So that's where it kind of starts off. But during that battle, we cut to Mars and we see two young pilots that are stationed there. We see Kodai Susumu, and I don't think I actually wrote down his name, but the name of his friend who's with him. But they are, I mean, unlike most modern anime, which I'm actually very grateful that they're doing it this way, most modern anime where they have a huge cast, they'll go ahead and put the character's name next to the person and never really bother giving an introduction to them.
Right.
Whereas in this one, they're not doing that. You know, they're not interrupting the flow of the show just to say a person's name.
Yeah, that was something that both what was it? Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
Yeah, Legend of Galactic Heroes.
Dainuthis. They did that where they introduced a character or a ship and they'd subtitle it to let you know where you were and what it was. And they're doing it over and over again in My Hero Academia, where they introduce somebody and says, this is who they are and this is their power, and it's just subtitled everywhere.
Yep, and honestly, I think that's just a little bit annoying, but you know, that's just kind of me. Anyways, so I like how they're doing that. But so they're on Mars, and this alien spacecraft that looks completely different from any other craft out there, that's gold-looking, crashes. But before it explodes, an escape pod flies out, and Kodai and his friend fly over to to the crash, and they open up this pod, and there's this beautiful woman in there. She's holding some kind of a device. Not sure what it is, but their order, they were on that planet to bring that woman and whatever she's carrying to Earth, from Mars. And the fleet, the human fleet, as soon as they get word that that those two retrieved that ship or retrieved the device, they pull back. Unfortunately, at that time, out of the 30 plus ships, I think it's around 40 ships or so in the human fleet, only 2 survive. And the last ship, which is commanded by Kodai's older brother, Major Kodai, he stays behind to let the Admiral retreat to Earth in safety. And so that's just kind of the opening, showing this really, really desperate situation. And they just show this incredible shot of where they say they're back at Earth, and you just see this red planet.
Yeah, you're like, wait. Your first inclination is, why are they calling Mars Earth? But suddenly you realize something's happened.
Yep, well, and then they show you immediately what's happened by showing these 2 planet-destroying missiles, or like almost meteorites. They reminded me of the mass driver weapons from Babylon 5.
Yes, where they basically energize asteroids and throw them at planets.
Yep, they're just massive. They're anti-planet weapons is pretty much what they are. And they smash down into Earth, and through the next couple episodes, we learn that the aliens are not just there to wipe out humanity; they're there to terraform Earth and make Earth a colony for them. So they're churning Earth into a place that's suitable for their environments by launching these asteroids at it that are filled with like spores and toxins and things like that. So, anyways, so episode 1's pretty straightforward. and they make it down to Earth. And they don't even really... One thing that they don't do is they don't show us the opening until the end of episode 2, as opposed to the end of episode 1, like a lot of animes do.
It's true.
And there's a reason for that.
There is.
Episode 2...
Okay, so there's...
You go ahead and take over.
Okay, so there's this major scene where the two main characters that we discussed, the young man and his friend, steal a fighter pilot, a fighter jet.
They make it to Earth and they land, and then as the brass is discussing what to do about this device they've recovered, because the woman actually died. Like the woman in the ship died, and they buried her on Mars. They left her there on Mars, and they flew back to Earth without her. But they're discussing what to do, and as they're discussing what to do and further their plans, plan Yamato is what they're calling it. Then they get an alarm. Then the aliens, a ship has made it to Earth, and so they hear an alarm, and then these two decide to go ahead and act on it, and they jump into an experimental fighter plane and fly off, which pisses off another one of the pilots.
Yeah, because it was his ship.
It's his ship.
It's his ship that they stole. And had they, I don't know, waited a few more minutes, maybe they might have put the ammunition back in.
Maybe they would have loaded it. Yeah, they flew off, and they get to the enemy ship, and they're about to open fire on it, and then they pull their triggers and whatnot, and nothing's working. They're completely weaponless on this ship. And then they crash because the ship is an experimental prototype.
And it wasn't quite done.
It wasn't quite done. So they then crash, and as they crash, they get out of the wreckage of the prototype ship, and then they start crawling through this desolate landscape. And they are wondering what a recon ship is doing out here. Like, what on earth are they trying to find?
I'm pretty sure they said something to the effect that they were worried that by the time a rescue team comes out for them, they wouldn't have enough air to survive, something like that. That they came out pretty far.
Yeah,
and like
humanity can no longer survive on the surface of the planet, so they built cities underground.
Yes.
Which are in a constant state of riot, and things are just really, really bad for humanity.
Yeah, there's terrorism and rioting and all sorts of bad things going on underground with mankind. And so they end up cresting this hill, trying to take a look around and see what they can do, and they find an old ocean style battleship buried up to its neck, or like the command bridge.
Yeah, it's an old battleship, like almost our era battleships.
Yes.
And it's up to like over half of it's encased in this red dirt that the Earth has turned into, and they're like, why on earth is that?
Is this old
recon
ruin
ship? Why is this old ruin? Like, why is this recon ship interested in this old ruin? And then they see a carrier above, and this carrier starts launching fighters down, and the fighters start attacking this ruin. And they're like, what the crap is going on? Why are they interested in this ruin? Well, the ruin then turns on. And the main guns all activate and aim up, and they just blow the enemy fleet out of the sky.
Yeah, just instantly. They're just gone. Which is, they established in episode 1 how ineffective their weapons are against the enemy. And suddenly these weapons wipe them out in a heartbeat.
Wipe out the enemies as if they're nothing.
It's just absolutely beautiful. So they're like, no wonder the enemy wants this thing destroyed. They don't stand a chance.
Yep. But yeah, it's top secret. Most people on Earth don't know about its existence and stuff like that, and the enemy has found out about it.
Now episode 1 and 2 are littered with all these micro scenes and introducing various characters that are kind of they're foreshadowing into stories that we're not going to be getting into today, because they're going to be fleshed out through the rest of the show. But that's kind of why we're skipping ahead and not delving too much into individual pieces that you'll see watching.
There's loads of characters. There's Nambu, who's a bridge officer. There is Yuki Mori, who is or Mori Yuki. She's a blonde. She's also a member of the crew.
Was she the platinum blonde or the yellow blonde?
Yellow blonde.
Okay, because there was a platinum blonde who applied. I don't know her name, but she applied to be a fighter pilot, and she was sent to accounting.
Yeah, she wanted to be a fighter pilot, and she was sent to accounting.
And so there's all these different characters.
There's Dr. Sato, who like is the comic relief character.
Yeah,
he's a doctor who's always drinking.
Yeah, he's drawn specifically differently and has like a pet something. I don't know if it was an actual cat or an alien dog or something.
It's a cat. It's just a weird, like, they drew him in the silly way that they drew comic relief characters back in that day.
Yep.
Whereas everybody else, their characters are very, very, like, beautiful, regal, very, very well drawn. His is very, very silly.
Oh.
And then we have Kato Saburo, who's the pilot whose ship they stole.
Yes.
So yeah, there's loads of characters, and some of them we don't even learn their names until episode 3 or later on.
Right.
But this is just one of those epic series from the past where it just goes.
So fans of the original show will probably recognize many of these characters as they're being introduced.
Well, even people who aren't fans like myself, I still recognize the characters just because this show is so incredibly influential, and we'll go ahead and get into that later.
As to how much it's influenced.
Yeah. But we have, and I'm talking about the original show, not the remake. The remake is still fairly new.
Yes.
But yeah, so they then announced that a crew that was selected to, and in their words, it was to help evacuate the planet. Like, that's not your job. That was a lie.
Yeah.
Your job is this job, and this is after they've defeated the enemy fleet, and the crews gathered in a meeting with the Admiral Okita, and they're told our plan is this, and they tell them about Space Battleship Yamato, where over a year ago they first made contact with these aliens who wanted to help them. And they received another message yesterday, and they played that message, and it's from the alien who died. It's from her older sister. And they kind of note a couple of times that Yuki looks just as beautiful as these beautiful, mysterious alien women.
Right.
Heavily, foreshadowing and things like that.
Yeah.
Anyways, Yuki, or not Yuki, they then learned that device was the final piece that they needed in order to power the Yamato, which is an interstellar battleship.
Yes.
And that's huge for humanity because humanity hasn't left our own solar system yet.
No, we have yet to achieve any form of faster than light travel on our own at this time, and that makes humanity easy to
easy pickings for these aliens.
Easy pickings for these aliens.
And the aliens, like, a thought crossed my mind, why aren't the aliens, if they're so technologically advanced, why aren't they, just attacking or wiping out humanity right now when they can, And then I thought to myself, well, that's probably, one, they're a huge empire, so they probably don't think they need to expend that many resources on humanity because of how low level humanity is. And two, humanity's already destroying itself. It's just a matter of time. It's not like a waiting game for them. Like, they will expend far fewer resources letting humanity destroy itself.
They're also probably just waiting for the terraforming to finish.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, that's something they mentioned in one of the episodes, was that...
Episode 3.
In episode 3, it was they mentioned that humanity had 365 days left.
Oh, no, that's the end of episode 1.
Yeah. Yeah, and the end of episode 1. They say that humanity has 365 days left before it's completely extinct.
That's what experts give humanity before the planet is no longer able to sustain them at all. So as far as the aliens are concerned, they've already won. They're just doing damage control and keeping the humans corralled until they die. So. Yep. But anyways, they then... this enemy, like the commander of the Gamilians who's stationed on Pluto, they see the readings from the attack, and they see that humanity has a weapon that's able to destroy their ships now. And so they're like, well, we should report this back. He's like, no, let's not worry about reporting it back. We'll just wipe them out with a missile right now. And so they launch a missile.
They launch a giant missile.
It's huge. It's far, far bigger than their terraforming rocks that they send. It's massive. And it takes pretty much all episode 2 to get from Pluto to Earth. Every once in a while, they'll cut back and show the missile still going. Like, it cruises past Pluto and then things like that. And they only notice it when it starts getting really close to Earth. And the crew gets to the Yamato. They power up the Yamato. And we see the old wreck of a ship, the camouflage that they had put over it begin to crumble away,
Mm-hmm.
and Yamato bursts out of the earth and starts flying towards the sky, and it starts playing the Yamato theme,
Oh, it's just
which is a really, really cool theme.
It is a cool theme.
And
It's just weaponized nostalgia right there.
yep. And the music in this is very much a throwback to the 70s, 80s era.
Yep.
And they shoot their main gun, not their main gun, that's not revealed until episode 3, but they shoot their cannons
Yeah,
at
they're
this
bridge
missile,
cannons.
their bridge cannons. And they do something that's just so cool. It fires 3 shots. It's like one of our battleships that has the 3 cannons on it, but it fires 3 shots, and the 3 shots bend together to become one single shot.
Yeah.
And
It reminded me of like the super gun that Mega Man uses in Mega Man X. The first
yeah.
one.
Mhm.
So there's got like they're spiraling into each other and then they become one. So that's not exactly what it does, but the spiraling effect made me think of that.
Yeah. And so that one shot destroys the missile, and everyone's worried what's happened to the Yamato because the Yamato's caught in the blast. And then the episode ends with the Yamato cruising out of the explosion with no damage taken whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then they go out into space, and that's the end of episode 1. And then they show us the opening credits.
Wasn't that episode 2?
Sorry,
Yeah,
that's
yes.
right. That's the end of episode 2.
That is the end of
And
episode
then
2.
they show us the opening credits. And the opening credits, and I went back and I checked, they are, for about half of the opening credits, a shot-for-shot recreation of the original
Nice.
opening credits. Same song and everything. It's the exact same song as the original opening as well. So this isn't like Megaloboxing, where
it's a new imagining of
it's
an
a
old classic.
reimagining of an old classic.
Now, this one's a traditional remake.
This is a traditional remake of the old classic. Really, really staying true to its roots and stuff. So they fly off into space, and then like the more action-oriented shots, like it's the exact same until about it shows the bridge, and then it cuts to, I was about to say Rick Hunter, but that's not his name. And then
it cuts to brunette Rick Hunter.
It cuts to brunette Rick Hunter. But it cuts to Kodai, and wow, that for those of you who don't know who Rick Hunter is, what are you doing listening to our show? But anyways,
it just reminded me of that. Somebody labeled My Hero Academia figures as green Naruto and blonde Sasuke.
I saw that picture. Green Naruto and blonde Sasuke.
It's like, okay, well, not that wrong, but very wrong at the same time.
But anyways,
yes. Episode 3 is where this show really comes into its own, though.
Yeah, no, it really, really starts picking up at episode 3. But, so, the credits, again, real fast. When Kodai gets into the ship and, like, the cockpit slides down, all that's new stuff.
Yes.
So, and then it ends with the same shot of, like, the camera angle from behind of the Yamato flying off into space.
Right.
So, anyways, yeah. Brunette Rick Hunter. Anyways, episode 3 is really where it starts taking off, just like you said. It really comes into its own.
Now, something that I wanted to mention is that this show, unlike many others, gives the title of the show just as the ending credits are about to start.
Don't they do that with Megaloboxing?
They might have done that with Megaloboxing as well, but it's just something that's rare.
Yeah.
Within the show. And within the genre, and I really like that they're doing it because the titles are a little bit spoilery.
Yeah, at the same time, though, Crunchyroll just gives you the titles as soon as it starts up anyways. So just like... Anyways, I know what you're saying, though. I know what you're saying.
So...
Yeah, anyways, so yeah, the end of each episode gives us the title, which is a nice change of pace where they're trying to, leave everything as a surprise.
And then the ending credits of every episode is like a recap of what you just watched. Because what they've done is they shrink down a screen and basically play the highlights of the episode you just watched while the credits are on black on the other side.
Yep. But anyways, they yeah, so the credits are pretty simple, and I actually like the recap credits as well.
Yeah.
But they what am I trying to say here? They take blah 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 blah. Okay, yeah. So after they after they successfully go into space, the leadership of the ship has a meeting. And, Kodai, he becomes the head tactician. So he's pretty much in charge of all the fighter squads.
Yes,
and ship weaponry.
It wasn't going to be his job, but his older brother died in the battle of the first episode, and so it fell to him.
And when he and Yuki first meet in episode 1, she gives him the cold shoulder because he's this brat who got their, experimental ship destroyed.
Yeah.
In episode 2, when he gets onto the ship, because he's given this assignment to be tactical command, he wants to meet the captain. He goes up to the bridge, and Yuki decides to be nice and receptive and welcoming and stuff. And she says, "Hi, let's get along since we're on the bridge together. We're gonna be on the bridge together." And she offers him a handshake, and he ignores it and says, "Where's the captain?" And then he goes to the captain, and then she is. When his friend shows up and tries to introduce himself to Yuki, Yuki immediately thinks he wants to see the captain as well, and she just gives him the cold shoulder and is like, "Captain's over there," So upset because of how brunette Rick Hunter treated her again. But anyways, so he's not Kodai is not thrilled about his position, but the admiral says, "Look, everybody who
who
were
else
thinking about before you, they're all dead."
You know who else isn't thrilled about his position? The guy whose ship he stole and wrecked, and is now under him in a command structure.
Yep.
Which, by the way, something we skipped over, when they introduced the Doctor character, the reason they introduced him, how they introduced him is, both our main character and his best friend have giant welts on their cheeks, and they're wrapping up the hand of the guy who...
Yeah, you only see the aftermath of what happened when they got back. We actually see the Doctor before that, but that's still a great scene with the Doctor.
Yes.
That's a great scene with the Doctor. Anyways, so they explain to them that this ship is a warp-capable ship. It's able to create black holes, or not wormholes.
Yes.
And pass through those wormholes.
Yes.
And they're like, okay. So they get you can always tell a good show when they focus on the details. And we'll go ahead and get into that in a little bit. But the captain says there could be something bad could happen, so everybody suit up before we do our first jump, because they've never done it before.
Right.
And so they power up the engines, everybody's in spacesuits and stuff, and they go through their jump, and as soon as they pass through the wormhole, time freezes for absolutely everybody on ship, and it's really, really cool how they show it.
They've got one guy playing darts in the middle of
the fighter pilot who punched the two friends.
So he's playing darts with in the hall. Somebody else is pouring himself some booze.
The doctor's pouring himself sake. And the dart is just frozen in midair. And it just kind of gives panning shots of the entire crew and stuff as
And it reminded me of the live action movie of Wing Commander that they did when they had a jump. They did a little bit of bullet time tricks there, and
but they were aware of it. They were aware of it when it happened. I don't know if they're aware of it. Well, I guess we'll learn about it more later. But after the crew goes through the jump, everything comes back to normal.
Right.
Nobody seems to be reacting to it, but some crew do get what's called jump sickness, which is like having a hangover. So where the jump just dehydrates you crazy.
Right.
Now, what's so bad about being drunk? Ask a glass of water.
It took me so long to realize what he's referring to. It means getting dehydrated.
Yeah.
It's like... I was like, why would a glass of water worry about somebody getting drunk on alcohol? It's like... it took me too long to get that joke.
Same here. Same here. Anyways,
but something that I wrote down on my list of things I found great about the show is when they actually left the jump.
Yeah.
Is that they left the jump? They left a jump portal, and the entire ship was covered in a layer of ice that was shattering off of it. And I thought adding that touch of physics of what would icing that happens to machines in the depths of space, plus whatever else was happening in the jump gate, is just a fantastic detail that they're adding to this show. Now, and the effects of what was going on while they were in the wormhole, and like they were crashing into a mirror or something, and it was very visually was very striking, but the detail of coming out of the wormhole covered in ice really really sold to me that they were thinking about the physics of what might be happening.
No, it's yeah, no, and after they take off their helmets and stuff, after they realize they're okay, the reason I said attention detail, not only the ice over the ship, something that I really, really liked was, and I didn't write it down, but when Yuki took off her helmet, her hair didn't just flow down, she had a clip to hold her hair up. And I just thought, yeah, no, that's somebody who had hair as long as hers, that's what she would do to put her hair into a space helmet.
Which is actually kind of a subversion of expectations, because of the art style of this show is so full of those the original material. It's the iconic, the blonde pulls off the helmet and it flows down.
Yeah, no, I mean, we saw a scene just like that when we watched Excel Saga, where they take off the iron mask and 3 feet of blonde hair comes down that no way would have fit under that helmet. Yes. So yeah, so it's just another it's a subversion of expectations.
It is.
So yeah, it's great. I loved it. So just little details like that.
I mean, you're expecting it because of the original source material is the same art style as Galaxy Express 999, Interstellar 5555,
Space Pirate Captain Harlock.
Space Pirate Captain Harlock. All of those shows did that, where the helmet came off and the hair flowed. And suddenly, that didn't happen this time.
That didn't happen this time. Nope. Sorry, women are real people in this show. Anyways, they end up near Jupiter, which is not where they were planning on jumping to, so they thought something went wrong, but then they realized that something was in the way, and so the ship pulled out of jump immediately as a safety precaution. And they because of the immediate stop, the ship actually is malfunctioning now, and they start falling down to Jupiter.
They were caught in Jupiter's gravity well, and the jump drive had overheated. The cooling system had catastrophically failed and required repairs.
Yes.
And
so they get the backup engines, and they're able to start flying barely again. They're able to get under control, not really get lift, but they're able to get control of the ship.
Yeah, they're entering.
See a massive object in front of them, and they see that's what the object was. That's pulled them out of warp. And it's a continent floating in the atmosphere of Jupiter, and the continent is the size of Australia.
Yeah.
It's a huge, huge thing just flying in the sky. And they land on it, and as they're repairing the ship, they're taking readings, and they're going out and exploring and collecting samples and stuff of this place, and they realize that this is a terraformed chunk of rock that the Gamilas have terraformed, and they're using it as kind of like a base of operations.
Yes.
And when they realize that the Gamilas have discovered them, and they send 4 ships to destroy them, and the commander of the space is just like, nah, 4 ships is overkill. Their guns can't even penetrate our armor. So,
the reason being is they were under surveillance by the Gamilas this whole time. The Gamilas knew that their ship had taken off, it had done so much damage to their ships, and thought, these are humans, and they're sending one ship out. They don't even have faster than light travel. What can they possibly hope to accomplish? So they wanted to watch and see. They see the ship, they detect that the ship had accomplished some kind of jump, but they're not 100% sure how or what. And that it ended up on Jupiter at a supply station for their ships. And so this place is designed for many of the ships to come there and refuel, and there just happen to only be 4 there at the time. And so they sent 100% of what was available to go destroy the Yamato.
Yep, and they send those 4 ships out, and well, that's overkill, Well, then Yamato proves them otherwise.
Yes.
And they divert power from unnecessary systems.
So the Yamato's kind of crash landed onto the continent. Well, not severely.
Just say emergency landing rather than crash landing.
Yeah. Yeah. So they emergency landed onto the continent. So they're stationary. They're sitting ducks. But that didn't matter.
No, because these 4 ships that are coming at them, they're like they start charging them, and Yamato, they don't have main power, so they start diverting power from unnecessary systems to the weapons, and they have weapon to the systems, and then Brunette Rick Hunter takes control and starts issuing commands to destroy these ships as they're coming.
Yes.
I shouldn't say that because I'm pretty sure Kodai came before Rick Hunter, but in my personal experience, I'm more familiar with Robotech than I am with Space Battleship Yamato.
Sure.
Anyways.
Just that name's gonna give me a grin every time you say it. That's great.
Then I will keep saying
Brunette
Rick Hunter.
Go for it.
Anyways.
So he fires, and he destroys 2 of the ships, and the other 2 are able to take evasive actions and avoid the attack, and they start firing missiles.
One shoots 4 torpedoes at them, and they activate the anti-air weapons, and the anti-air weapons shoot the missiles out of the sky.
Yeah.
And then one of the ships gets close enough to where they can use projectile weapons rather than energy weapons, and they just shoot, and all 3 shots just bam, bam, bam hits this thing, knocks it out of the sky, and it crashes and explodes. And the last one runs away. And they're like, well, we've got full power now, so let's get out of here. And so they get full power, and they fly up, and they turn around, and they say, let's destroy this base of operations. And you're like, oh,
we should use the wave cannon.
We need to use the wave cannon, which we skipped explaining because we wanted to get to this scene.
Yes.
But they explain that not only does this ship create warps, it also, which, creates energy from behind to push them through a warp gate. The big thing about the Battleship Yamato is that it's pretty much a giant gun. Is that this energy can also be used as a cannon in front of them. And there's a little, there's a nozzle on front of the ship that opens up when they fire it. And they do this really, really cool a sequence of powering up the gun and getting everybody ready. And then one thing that I really liked was the view screen that they have suddenly darkens. And then everybody on the ship puts on goggles as well. And you're just like, how bright is this going to be if they have to darken the view screen and put on safety goggles?
Yeah.
And,
So they have this kind of silly looking control system. I'm going
to say that it's awesome. Silly my foot. That control system's awesome. A massive trigger show, like a gun handle shows up in front of Kodai's station.
Yes.
And he's able to
station
control...
and the station in front of that pops up through these screens.
And then pops up a screen with a target reticle and stuff like that, because he is direct center of the ship.
Yeah.
So what he sees is what's directly in front of him is directly in front of the gun. So, and he's able to use little nubs on the handle to position the ship using its retro thrusters and stuff to where it exactly needs to be to shoot what he wants to shoot.
Yes.
And then he cocks it. By pulling on the back, he cocks it.
And then there's a whole thing that the captain does, uttering different commands of engage, unlock certain safeties and engage certain magnetic things that, and we see giant mechanics in the core of the ship shifting and moving, and it all boils down to this one handgun-sized control in Brunette Rick Hunter's hands.
Rick Hunter's hands, and then Kodai, once the captain says, go, gives him the go ahead, he issues the command to fire. He pulls the trigger, and then
they have a countdown.
Well, yeah.
But is that before or after the trigger's pulled?
I think that's before the trigger's pulled.
Because they had to count down from 10 in order for enough energy to be in the gun.
Mm-hmm. And so after the countdown reaches 0, he then pulls the trigger, and the hammer goes forward, which goes in sync with the actual hammer of the gun inside of the ship, and it shoots, and it slams into it. It connects whatever it needs to do. It just looks awesome.
It looks awesome. It looks like the hammer of a gun the size of a subway tunnel.
Yeah, and it just, boom, slams into whatever it needs to hit. And the opening of the front of the ship, the fore of the ship, lights up, and this massive beam just shoots out of the Yamato and devastates a floating continent the size of Australia in a single shot.
Disintegrates
it. Everything on it is gone. Yeah, and that's kind of where episode 2 ends, with them using the Yamato cannon.
Episode 3.
Sorry, episode 3, thank
Yes.
you. And this is what I wanted to talk about a little bit more, is the influence this show has even on us here in America. How familiar are you with StarCraft?
I'm pretty familiar with it.
You remember the battleships?
I remember the battleships.
Remember the Yamato cannon the battleships have?
I remember being Zerg once and having a fleet of 12 of these things, and whoever was playing their this managed to synchronize it so that each one of the ships would fire at the one right after the other. So it was a chain of Yamato cannons that was just decimating my entire
well,
entire base.
For people who are not familiar with this show and are familiar with StarCraft, that's where they got the name Yamato cannon from. And it's just a massive energy blast that comes out and devastates what's ever in front of it. So yeah, this show has far and reaching influences throughout our culture as well. So yeah, that's the first 3 episodes. What are your final thoughts on it?
I didn't know if I'd be interested in it while watching the first 2 episodes, but once episode 3 came about, I mean, that's why we do 3 episodes in.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's just not enough for the first 2 episodes. But this 3rd episode really got me going.
Especially since the first 2 episodes felt like one episode.
It did. And it was kind of a... What happened felt important, but poorly paced. Like maybe there would have been a better way to pace it, to keep it make it more engaging than it was for me personally. But once episode 3 hit, it really came into its stride, and I want to watch more of it.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited for it. I'd like to see more of it. I'm not sure if this follows the same plot as the old one. I know that certain characters die throughout the series, so it's just that's always happened in anime when certain people pass away. I know that in the original series, eventually Kodai pretty much becomes captain of the ship as well. And they've kind of hinted that the admiral's not going to survive the trip because of his age and his body is in terrible, terrible shape.
Yeah.
I know that in the original series, Kodai and Yuki get married, and they have a daughter. But yeah, I have no idea if they're planning on just doing a faithful, complete recreation of the original show, or if they're going to be doing their own thing, or if they've done their own thing with it. Because they've already finished the first season, and they're about halfway through season 2.
Yeah.
So,
well, maybe we'll find out.
Yeah. So yeah, this show's a pass for me. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next.
Okay.
All right. That's it for 3 episodes in. Next up, we have our recommendation of the week. And that's you, Lee. That's your turn.
No, we're going to... Okay. Before we go to the recommendation of the week, we're going to talk about what we're going to watch next week.
Oh, that's right. Next time. Duh. We have next time. Okay. We have another show coming up next time.
Yes. So next week... so this show has gotten a lot of people are talking about it. It's gotten a lot of critical acclaim, and some reviews are that I've seen are mixed, and so I want to see for myself what it's like. So next week I am picking Darling in the Franxx.
Okay.
Or Franz. I'm not sure how that's pronounced. Franzz XX.
In the Franz.
Franxx.
Whatever. We'll figure it out.
Okay. So Crunchyroll has the following synopsis: the distant future, humanity established the mobile fort city Plantation upon the ruined wasteland. Within the city were pilot quarters, Mystillion, otherwise known as the Birdcage. That is where the children live. Their only mission in life was the fight. Their enemies are the mysterious giant organisms known as the Kauru. And the children operate robots known as Franxx in order to face these still unseen enemies. Among them was a boy who was once called a child prodigy, code number 016, Hero. One day, a mysterious girl called 02 appears in front of Hero. I found you, my darling.
Okay. Now, I've heard that the show starts off really strong, but just kind of pitters out near the end.
That's what I've heard too.
But I haven't seen it yet, so I'm willing to give it a try with you. So that's what we'll watch for next week.
Okay.
So that's it for 3 episodes.
That's it for 3 episodes in.
Let's go ahead and go to our recommendation of the week then.
All right. So this week I'm recommending an anime that we're probably not going to feature in a 3 episodes in because we've already seen it all the way through. But I absolutely adore this anime, and it's called When Supernatural Battles Become Commonplace.
Oh.
This is an adorable high school show about a world where everybody has some kind of superpower, but most of them are... Not every... No. It's a very small minority of people have a superpower, and they form a high school club. Because what are they going to do with this superpower? Because they're not going to go out and be superheroes. They're high school kids. So they take this a little bit more seriously than any other anime in that regard.
All of them but one. One really wants to be a superhero.
So our main character really wants to be a superhero. And his superpower is the most and they say this in the show, that it's the most useless superpower that's ever existed. He has this power called Dark and Dark. And what he can do is he can summon a dark flame in his hand. The flame produces no light, gives off no heat, and does absolutely nothing but look cool in his hand.
And he's so excited about having this superpower. Whereas the other characters of the show, one of them can manipulate reality, one has power over time, one has power over the elements, one can just do whatever she wants, they could become the most powerful superhero team in the world if they wanted to, and be completely unstoppable because of their powers.
Yes.
And not a single one of them wants anything to do with this at all. They just see this as the biggest inconvenience of their lives. And this guy, he's just like, this is the greatest thing ever. Don't you guys understand? We have superpowers. This is so cool.
So he names the black flame in his hand Dark and Dark. And there's a scene, and that absolutely it just comes to me every time.
Let's not really spoil it for the
audience. Just he's so in love with his little superpower that he says good morning and good night to it.
Yeah, okay.
It's like, good morning, Dark and Dark. Good night, Dark and Dark.
I thought you were going to be talking about something that happens later on.
Something that happens later on. Just watch the show. It's fantastic. Some things happen later on, but no, this... it's just adorable.
It's a really, really good show. It's only 12 episodes long. They didn't make any more than that. Leaves on a little bit of a cliffhanger, which is sad, but... I still thoroughly enjoyed what they had.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's recommendation of the week. Thanks, Lee.
Yep.
And now it's creator shout out, and that's my turn. And I'm going to go ahead and give a shout out to Benjamin Scott, the creator of Puffin Forest on YouTube. And he just makes short little 5-10 minute videos about D&D adventures and things like that he has encountered when either he's run a game or he's been in a game. And they're just kind of delightful little stories that he shares. And he's got very, very good comedic timing. Like, he's really good with his comedic timing. And he's recently released, he started releasing hour-long episodes of the superhero campaign that he's running on a new channel of his. And you can find that channel on his YouTube channel. But his YouTube channel is Puffin Forest. And you can go ahead and find him on Twitter as well, Puffin Forest. So I'm going to go ahead and give him a shout out for all the great work he's done.
All right, fantastic.
Okay. Well, that about wraps it up for us this week. Thanks so much for listening, you guys. If you listen to us on YouTube, or we post this show on YouTube as well, please feel free to give us a like and subscribe. That's going to really help us out. And if you want to support us, go ahead and spread the word of our channel, or the podcast, if you're listening to it via podcast, or, even support us on our Patreon. We'd very much appreciate that. And so, where can they find us on social media?
Our site, WhitakerWeekly.com, will be having links to our social media pages on the front page here pretty soon. In the meantime, you can search for us on Facebook at Whittaker Weekly, or follow us on Twitter at the handle at Whittaker Weekly.
Okay, well, that's about it for this week. Thanks so much for listening. I've been Andrew.
I've been Lee.
And this has been Whittaker.